The idea of standardized testing came from Horace Mann in 1845. He suggested that instead of annual oral exams, school children should prove their knowledge through written tests. It was his goal to find the best teaching methods so that all children could have equal opportunities. Creating and administering tests helped the teacher better prepare and focus on areas where students were struggling. However, this purpose of testing changed over time, and students are now measured and ranked by these tests. The purpose of tests shifted from evaluating teachers to a tool assessing students, which eventually led to ranking them. These test scores became a factor in determining funding for education, which resulted in more tests to produce better results. In 2001, Congress renamed the Improving America's School Act and renamed it the No Child Left Behind Act. This law required states to use test results to evaluate schools and identify those that needed improvement. After the No Child Left Behind Act passed, the United States went from 18th in the world in math on the Program for International Student Assessment to 31st place in 2009. There has been a similar decline in science. Studies have shown that no evidence test-based programs are working. Policymakers have yet to produce positive effects. Standardized tests consist of multiple choice and short answer questions. These type of tests rarely measure the ability to understand and use complex material. Standardized tests produce unreliable scores as they may vary significantly due to testing conditions or the test taker's mental state. The testing environment is typically referred to as high-stakes testing. High-stake tests cause the curriculum to be altered to focus on what is on the test. This is usually called teaching to the test. Because of this, teachers have felt compelled to boost scores for the sake of their performance evaluation. Standardized tests are not helpful tools. They use a cookie-cutter approach and do not think of the differences in students. They don't measure deep thinking in any field. Take a look at this cartoon. There's a quote that says, "If you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life believing that it is stupid." On the other hand, standardized testing can be used as a tool to collect data from students. Standardized tests can also be used for teacher evaluations. Although urban schools receive millions of dollars to correct disparities, the standardized test scores for African American and Latino students remain much lower than those of white students. Since the creation of standardized testing, many factors have contributed to why African Americans do not do well on these tests. Outside factors that tend to affect test scores include poverty, racial segregation, inadequate funding for schools, and cultural bias. Health issues due to unstable housing and food can also get in the way of successful testing. More often than not, students tend to focus on outside issues than what is going on in the classroom. Because test scores can be a huge determining factor in placement, they have the potential to create barriers for African American students in advancing their education. My interest in the topic of standardized testing roots from my own personal experience. I grew up in a predominantly white, high-needs community. I was a member of National Honor Society, National Art Honor Society. I was actively involved in sports. I was the vice president of both my class and National Honor Society, and I was an active member in many clubs. I had completed several advanced and honors classes and graduated 6th in my class. Why is this information important? Because my test scores did not show my potential. I had received a 66 on the New York State Physics Regents exam, a low 70 on a few others, and I failed out of pre-calculus solely because of my test scores. After taking the SATs 3 times, I received no score higher than a 1280. I graduated with a student who was ranked close to last and could not pass any test, but he was the smartest person I knew. His only downfall was test taking. Tests should be used as a tool to understand what students need. Unfortunately, it has been used as a way to evaluate teachers and rank students. Teachers are finding the need to teach to the test, taking away from what really should be taught. Standardized tests are not the solution to underperformance, but rather they shine a light on what our students need. Standardized tests have been used improperly, thus creating a narrative that they are deemed evil. Doing away with these tests will not solve our problems, but would mask them. One teacher cannot make the change we need, but together, we all can. Standardized testing teaches me, as a student, that it defines my success. Tests are used for statistics, school funding, and teacher evaluations. My test scores are no longer about what I need as a student. As an educator, the issue of standardized testing teaches me that I have the ability to push my students to do their best, despite how that reflects on me, school funding, and their curriculum. I never wanted to be the educator that taught to the test. Our students need to know more than how to fill in a bubble on a piece of paper. I want my students to leave my classroom with valuable knowledge. If they walk out the door with understanding, then I have done my job. No one-size-fits-all test can measure that.